Hello and welcome to Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. We begin with the war in the Middle East. President Trump says that the U.S. is very close to deal with Iran nearly 7 weeks after the war began. The president says another round of negotiations could happen in the coming days as the U.S. continues its blockade of Iranian ports. According to U.S. Central Command, 14 ships have turned around. Meanwhile, the president announced that Israel and Lebanon, including Hezbollah, have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire starting Thursday. He says that both Israel and Lebanon's leaders are invited to the White House for talks over the next week or so. But without a clear resolution to the war, Democrats in Congress are pushing measures to limit U.S. military action in Iran without congressional approval.
It's going to be a deal with no nuclear weapons. If there's no deal, fighting resume.
The Constitution grants the Congress, not the president, the power to declare war.
A war powers resolution in the House failed Thursday. A similar resolution failed in the Senate Wednesday as Republicans say that they support the president's operation. Well, joining us is Bassima Alghussein. She is a political analyst and also the executive director emeritus of the Middle East Policy Council. Bassima, welcome to Capitol Review.
Good morning.
We are so glad to have you. Let's talk about really the first round of peace talks ended without a deal. President Trump says that he's optimistic that things will be different the second time around. Your reaction?
So I do think that things will be different, and the biggest change right now is the fact that there is a temporary ceasefire, a 10-day ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. As you can imagine, it's incredibly hard for the United States and Iran to make progress on any negotiating if their proxies are in an active armed engagement. And so right now there's a brief window where that tension is not there, and it allows for a more successful negotiating runway.
You talk about a successful negotiating runway. Some think that maybe there should be different people in the room the second time around. There are many who say that India could actually play a key role.
Yes, so recently President Trump implied that he might be interested in inviting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the discussions, and that is really more from diplomacy signaling and balancing optics, not really from a formal negotiating role. And the reason why that's important is because right now Pakistan has, become the main mediator. And India and Pakistan have always had, a power struggle within the region. And so Iran didn't want to appear to be sidelined. And so that's really would be more of the president kind of throwing Narendra Modi a bone. But Pakistan really remains the current real intermediary.
Bassima, as you know, there are concessions in every negotiation. Can they find common ground on key issues, including uranium and, of course, the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, something that's different right now is the Trump administration is currently considering a money for uranium swap. So the administration is this time considering offering the Iranian government $20 billion in exchange for a very large amount of highly enriched uranium that was enriched at 60%. And 60% is the threshold where uranium can be turned into a weapon in a pretty short amount of time, a matter of weeks versus months. And so if we were able to successfully take that from the Iranians, if they gave it up in this negotiation, it would significantly reduce the threat, at least in the immediate term, that Iran would achieve a weapons capability. Now, the difference is, though, is that Iran is asking for more than that. They also want the sanctions fully removed, and the Trump administration is likely not willing to do that. Right now, they've only signaled that they're willing to reduce the amount of sanctions or pause them temporarily, but not completely lift them. So that is also a gap that needs to be closed.
All right, Bassima, we're talking about the U.S., Iran, and Israel. A lot of layers here. Is there reason for optimism a deal can get done?
I think so, because like I said, right now there is the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, and that was not the case before, so that's very positive. And also, prolonged, protracted tension between Iran and the United States is really not in the interest of anyone. It would continue to make extreme pressure on energy prices as well as fertilizer, which is going to affect the food supply and the cost of food, not only in the United States, but around the world. So as you are well aware, energy and food are just simple basic needs for any person in the world. And so it's not really in anyone's interest for this to continue.
Bassima Alghussein, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.